It's very simple stuff here, guys. Come on now. If we just look at the facts, clearly, 50,000 years ago or whatever, God just made everything the way it is today. And that's why we don't have any paintings of watermelons that look any different, or dog breeds that look any different than they used to, or humans that are taller than they used to be. Oh, I guess we do have all those things. Okay, so we've got this video called 6 Reasons Not to Believe in Evolution, Proof for God. Now, I came across this video. It was made like 3 years ago, but I came across it because I decided the last few videos that I reviewed were kind of boring. So, and I don't even think they were able to be uploaded to YouTube because my editor decided that like the video game audio was too loud. So now I'm going to react to this without a video game. You're welcome. Anyway, we're going to watch this real quick. It's from World Video Bible School, WVBS, and it should prove very interesting. Listen, I am nothing if not an open-minded individual. I am ready to have evolution disproven. I am ready to have my mind blown by the World Video Bible School and what they have to say about evolution. Let's learn something, okay? Let's all go in with an open mind, and let's all learn something. Ready? All right, let's do this.
In the year 2002, in Cobb County, Georgia, there was a sticker that was placed on the inside cover of the biology textbooks. That sticker simply said that these textbooks contain information on evolution. Evolution is a theory, not a fact, about living organisms, and it should be looked at with an open mind, studied carefully, and critically considered. Do you know if...
I mean, this is from 2002. That's probably pretty standard for that time, unfortunately. By the way, I'm going to try to come in with this with an open mind, like I said. So, okay, good. We look at it critically, right? We look at it critically. We say, okay, well, let's take a step back. It's just a theory. It's not a fact, right? It's just evolution, right? We think this might have happened. Okay, got it? We think evolution's real. We don't know it. We don't know it for a fact. We just think it's real. All right, with that being said, let's let them make their case.
If you were to take the sentiments of that sticker and you were to look at the evidences for evolution with an open mind and you study them carefully and you critically consider them, what you would find is these evidences don't prove evolution at all. Here are 6 supposed evidences for evolution that simply are not good reasons to believe in evolution.
Okay, so real quick, right, just before we start letting them talk, right, my evidence for evolution is literally that a mommy and a daddy make a baby, and the baby kind of looks like them, right? That's all you need. For me, personally, that's all you need, because literally what that proves is that people with certain traits, or I should say organisms with certain traits, pass those genetic traits on to the next generation, and the organisms that are living and are able to pass those genes on are the ones that will pass those genes on, right? That's, in my mind, at least, in my feeble mind, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's very evident in the fact that children tend to look like their parents, and even that, like, if you cross 2 different plants with each other that have different traits, they will often have a combination of the 2 traits, right? I think that's pretty straightforward. But hey, maybe I'm just an idiot. There are 2 kinds of babies in evolution: normal babies and biofreaks. At first that was true when it was asexual reproduction, because asexual reproduction literally was just a clone, right? Like, it was a thing with single-celled organisms, and it still sometimes is a thing with multi-celled organisms, but basically it's a single-celled organism thing where you clone yourself and you make a genetic copy of yourself. And then it's the mutations that result in, like, the biofreaks, quote unquote, like what you said. And then that leads to evolution. It's genetic diversity.
Number 1, vestigial organs. In 1865, a German anatomist named Robert Wiedersheim said...
Okay, first of all, I just want to state, starting with vestigial organs as like the number 1 proof of evolution is very odd. Because I didn't even have to bring up vestigial organs. Now, those help to prove it, but I didn't even have to bring it up, right? Like, I just said, like, you see how mother and father make child that look like mother and father, that have traits of mother. Anyway, we'll let him talk.
that he discovered 185 different useless or virtually useless organs in the body. And he said this was evidence of evolution. In fact, the argument
I've never heard of this.
That if humans evolved, then they would have had at one time organs that an animal would have used in a certain way, but would no longer be used in that way in the human body, and those organs would begin to atrophy and start to be useless. The problem with this vestigial organ idea is that there are two reasons it cannot prove evolution.
Okay, he's saying that like that alone can't prove evolution, which is true, by the way. That alone can't prove it, but that is, it's decent evidence. We have back molars that need to be removed often, wisdom teeth, right? Because our jaws over time have just grown too small for the power of the wisdom teeth. We have appendixes, which don't seem to do much of anything unless we eventually discover a purpose that we can just remove off the cuff if they happen to explode. It's pretty good evidence, I think, because the theory is that the appendix one time did provide us with some kind of like digestive material or something that benefited us, but does not do that anymore. It's just useless. So... And also, they didn't even get into vestigial organs on things like snakes and whales, which have like literal leg bones inside of their bodies. But I digress.
Number one, if you did have vestigial organs in your body, that wouldn't prove evolution. You see, evolution has to go from a single-celled organism to a human, and you don't need organs that are decaying and atrophying. You need evolution to produce new organs.
Yes, and then more evolution can render those organs useless, like leg bones in whales. He doesn't. It's so evident that he doesn't even know what vestigial organs do. Like he doesn't even conceptually know what they are. He literally thinks just like the organs we say that are useless in the human body, and he doesn't even think about it in terms of like other animals. The most famous examples of vestigial organs are snakes and whales and their leg bones. Right now, the appendix might work as a pouch to keep back gut bacteria in case yours get wiped out thanks to a sickness. That's a really good theory, and I have not heard that. And I thank you very much for that, Army of Lyme, because it is true that gut bacteria does in fact get wiped out after antibiotic therapy and as a result of the immune response from the immune system. So that being the case, if you are sick, I highly recommend after your sickness is over and your antibiotic therapy is completed to take probiotics and yogurt.
We should
especially if you don't have an appendix, apparently.
That are almost ready to allow organisms to fly that can't yet fly. We should
thank you for the follow, Army of Lyme.
Visionary optical connections in living organisms that don't have them.
What?
We should see things adding information, not losing genetic information.
If you look at somebody's DNA, you can find genetic coding for things that have long since been lost. It's like considered useless DNA, at least at this time. That's our understanding of it. Our long strand of DNA, like our 46 chromosomes of DNA, do not all code for information that we currently use. We think a lot of it's just junk info from times past. Like, this is such a basic misunderstanding of how evolution works. It's phenomenal.
And the second problem with the vestigial organ argument is that 185 list of vestigial organs, it began to dwindle very rapidly. When we started looking more closely into them, and it became 180 and then 175 and then...
Look at snakes and whales. They have leg bones that they don't use. What about those? That's literally one of the first things you learn about in fucking biology when you talk about evolution. Like, you gotta be kidding me on this.
Do you know, as we look more into the body, we realize that those vestigial organs were very useful. Many of them extremely useful.
Were. Oh, wait. You mean currently are? Okay.
Number two, the idea of homology.
Uh-oh, the
We're told
gays.
that similarity proves ancient ancestry. And what I simply mean by that...
Okay. Fundamental misunderstanding once again. Similarity does not prove ancient ancestry. We look at organisms that are similar and we can trace back their evolutionary lineages. And sometimes this thing called convergent evolution happens, where two very different species from very different lineages evolved in a similar capacity. A popular example is the way that butterflies evolved wings, and birds also evolved wings, both in order to be able to fly. That does not mean that butterflies and birds are closely related. In fact, butterflies are far more closely related to spiders than they are to birds by a long shot. But they convergently evolved so that they both had wings to fly. And that is shown by the fact that they have very different mechanisms, different organs that came about as like the origin of the organ was different. So similarity does not prove ancient ancestry. That's a false premise that he's making.
That is, we're told that because humans have similar physical characteristics to certain animals, that proves that they evolved from animals.
If a single biologist ever tells you this, that biologist has been hit in the head with a brick and needs to be hospitalized. This is not something that a biologist will ever say word for word, okay? That does not prove anything. It just substantiates it. It's evidence.
Well, similarity doesn't prove evolution at all. In fact, you could see things that are similar and you would realize that those similarities are often caused by a common designer. Suppose there were a supernatural intelligent designer and he created a world where many organisms would need to drink the same water, eat the same kinds of food, walk over the same types of terrain. What would happen? Well, obviously, he would use similarities, similar structures to accomplish his goals.
That doesn't... Okay, I'm going to let him keep going.
Similarity doesn't prove common ancestry. In fact, similarity argues more for a common creator than anything else.
That's not true at all. You can argue literally anything for a common creator. What if the creator wanted to mix it up? What if they were like, and they literally did, by the way. I can make this argument. No, you're wrong, actually, because the creator wanted to mix it up. Because if we're all living on the same planet and we're all drinking the same water and eating a lot of the most similar food, why would God make some of us similar and others of us very different? Why are there ants that crawl upon the ground and basically live as a hive mind, and there are humans who are individual, free-thinking, and eat very different food from ants? Even though we all walk the same earth and drink the same water, etc., and imbibe the same nutrients, that doesn't make any sense. So this does not make a shred of sense. Which, by the way, I knew that this was going to be ridiculous going in, but I feel like tearing it asunder because it's fun. So,
supposed evidence for evolution number 3, the fossil record. You know what we're told is that you can look into the fossil record and you can find proof that organisms evolved over millions of years. Supposedly, we're told that you can find transformational organisms.
This is the last time I'm going to say this, but it keeps saying proof in place of evidence, and they're not interchangeable words. But I digress about that.
Prove this animal evolved into some other kind of animal. But if you were to take that seriously and you were to go to the fossil record, what you would find is that those transformational fossils are missing on a grand scale. In fact, evolutionist Mark Ridley stated that no real evolutionist, whether gradualist or punctuationist, uses the fossil record as evidence in favor of the theory of evolution as opposed to special creation.
What? That's just not true at all. Who is this Mark Ridley person? You're wrong, dude. That's insanely wrong. The fossil record is enormously useful to people who support evolution. Are you kidding me? Like, there's an entire museum structured around it. They're not quiet about that. Just because there are some fossil records missing in the lineage from like an ancient helix fossil to the current snail, that doesn't mean that evolution's wrong. That means that other records, like fossil records, disintegrated or just were not there. Like, biologically speaking, all biological material eventually disintegrates. It's destroyed. And some biological material is preserved longer for various reasons. We find a lot of things in amber, for instance, because amber is a very good preserver of biological material. We even see this in human societies, right? Ancient Egyptians were very, very good at preserving bodies, and that's why we found even skin left on some of the ancient rulers, right? Ancient Egyptian rulers. It's different environments, different, just random anomalies that make these fossils still available to us even after all of this time. Just because we have gaps in that record doesn't mean the record's wrong. It just means that those gaps are lost to time, unfortunately, or that we have not done enough digging yet. Yeah, exactly. Like we find a new gap and they're like, well, what about these other gaps? And you find another gap and you're like, well, what about these other gaps? And it's called God of the gaps, right? That's what they're doing. God of the gaps. Oh, well, you can't explain this thing, therefore God. Very lazy.
Now, why would he say that? Well, he would say that because when you look at the fossil record, you see organisms coming into the fossil record fully formed. You see a stage of stasis where they do not change, and then they go out of the fossil record without evolving into anything else, exactly as the creation model would predict. The fossil record does not prove evolution.
So wait. What he's saying is that because we have fossil records of things that existed millions of years ago that still exist today, like in a very similar capacity, that disproves evolution. That's not true at all. Humans have been largely the same for centuries. That doesn't mean if we dig somebody up from 1,000 years ago and they're like the same bone structure, that disproves evolution. Which, by the way, 1,000 years ago, we were actually a little bit of enough of a different bone structure that we can actually examine the differences that took place over an evolutionary amount of time. Your uni exam was just on evolution. That's funny. But for instance, humans used to be a lot shorter than we are now, a lot shorter in stature, or at least it's thought to be the case. So you look back during Jesus's time period, he might have been like 5'0" and been average height for a man. I don't know. It's just very silly.
Number 4, the idea of mutations. We're told that mutations prove you could get a certain single-celled organism to mutate over multiplied millions of years and bring about new information on a grand scale that, given enough time, you could get a human being.
Yeah.
What's the problem with that line of reasoning? The problem is that mutations don't give us new information.
That's false. Mutations are literally a new genetic code. That's new information.
Mutations can only take information that is already available and cause it to decay.
That's false. A mutation can literally be beneficial. We've seen this over and over and over again throughout evolutionary history. That's literally why we're not single-celled bacteria swimming in a pool of organic material. That's why we're humans. Yeah, eyes are a mutation. Everything's a mutation. Everything's a mutation. And the first single-celled organisms were an accident. Okay?
Mutations are an
reset the
example
camera.
of a loss of genetic information. Let me give you an example. For the last 100 years or more now, scientists have been studying fruit flies.
Thank God.
They are great examples of how you can mutate an organism. We have been zapping these fruit flies with radiation and mutating them in chemical ways for more than 100 years now.
Yeah.
The reason that they are so valuable to study is because you can get a new generation every 14 days.
Sick.
We have in that 100-year period the equivalent of what would be millions of years of evolutionary time. And what do you have after all the radiation and mutation? Do you have a fruit fly that has evolved new genetic information? No, you don't. In fact, all you still have is a fruit fly. It hasn't evolved into anything else. Mutations.
I don't know exactly the experiments he's referring to, but in order for that to be the case, you literally have to take a fruit fly, you have to expose it to radiation, pray that the radiation you're exposing it to induces a beneficial mutation, or at least a neutral one, breed that fly with another one, and then hope that the baby fly, the larva, has the genetic material from the parent that was mutated. It's a very complicated process. And then you would have to take that next fly and you would have to mutate that one. And then you would have to hope that the mutation's good enough that it doesn't die or get castrated. And then you have to breed that one, et cetera, down the line. Just because humans are not good at doing genetic mutations and forcing evolution to take place in that regard, I'll get to the other way that we do that literally in a second, doesn't disprove evolution. In fact, what does prove, at least as far as you can prove it, evolution, is dogs, dog breeds. Hello? Where did dogs come from? They weren't just there. They came from wolves, buddy. All right? And the reason that we have all the different breeds that we have today, none of which can survive in the wild, mind you, almost none of them. I'd say probably 95% of them cannot survive in the wild for very long. The reason we have them is because we specifically bred them to be that way. All right. Pugs are a great example. Ugly little fucks that cannot breathe, right? Great stuff. It's literally, by the way, I believe, torture to breed a pug. But I digress. Pugs exist because we decided that their traits are visibly pleasing to us. And despite the fact that they cannot breathe and would not survive more than 2 seconds in a wild scenario, they exist anyway because we bred them that way. Human innovation has led to this type of breeding, which, by the way, is the only reason you have the bananas that you enjoy without any seeds, the apples that are the size that you enjoy, all the different types of food that you enjoy, really. It's the only reason you have clothes that that came from sheep that we bred, milk that is not contaminated from cows that we bred. Like, it's the reason for so many things. Like, it's incredible what artificial evolution has done for us. And yet you're going to take this one specific example of shocking flies with radiation and say that proves that evolution is not real. Okay, dude. If you want flies that can service radiation poisoning, this is a great experiment, but it proves nothing for adaptation to a world where radiation is not the problem. Exactly. Here's a pug skull if anyone wants to see what I'm talking about, because holy shit. Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, look at that. That's a pug skull. That shit's not natural. We did that. We did that. Okay? We did that. Cute. I love it. Pugs are very cute. And they deserve love. But we should stop breeding them.
Don't prove evolution. That's simply not the mechanism that could get a single-celled organism to a human. Number 5, English peppered moths. We're told that English peppered moths provide an example of...
Oh, this is a great one, by the way. What he's about to get into is basically, before the Industrial Revolution, all these trees were white, and so the peppered moths were mostly white, and it provided good camouflage. During the Industrial Revolution, all those trees turned black from the soot, and you saw that black moths began to take over because there was a mutation whereby some of the moths were black. But because the trees were all white, most of the black moths died off from predation. But once the trees started turning black, more black moths were present, and they started to take over the trees because they blended in better. So, and then the trees turned white again because restrictions were put in place that made the trees white again. And we saw the return of the white moths because the black ones were eaten off again. Very interesting stuff, but let's see what he has to say about it.
You see, before the Industrial Revolution, there were 2 varieties of English peppered moths. One dark-colored, one light-colored, but the light-colored was much higher in ratio than the dark-colored. But after the Industrial Revolution, the dark-colored became the more prominent color and the light, the fewer in the mix. And we're told that's because birds could see the light-colored better, etc. And this was supposedly an example of natural selection. The problem with this example is, number one, many of the pictures were fake because the English peppered...
No, they're doctored pictures. Okay, got it. No, that's great, man. That's great. It's definitely not something that you could literally replicate, by the way. Like you can do this. You can take bugs that are different colors, that are adapted to different forms of camouflage, and put them in an environment where there are predators, and see which ones survive. And guess what? The ones that are differently colored from the tree, if it's 50-50 black and white and the trees are white, the black ones will die off, the white ones will proliferate, and you'll see many, many more white ones. You can literally do this. You can just do this. You can just do this. Like, are you kidding me? Oh, fake picture. Photoshopped picture, as you can see. Photoshopped. Fake as fuck. The lab coats are coming for us yet again. Oh my God.
Moths don't often land on tree trunks, and the entire idea was flawed in that way. But the second problem was that before the Industrial Revolution, the genetic information in the English peppered moth genome had genetic information for 2 varieties, light-colored and dark-colored. And after, the genetic information was the same.
Man discovers how gene codes work, how gene populations work. Yeah, the black doesn't just all go away. It diminishes. It doesn't all go away. Like it's crazy. It's unbelievable. This guy's like 50 IQ at best.
Peppered moths simply do not prove evolution. And number 6, horse evolution.
Uh-oh. No, it's Vosh time. It's Vosh time. Get Vosh in here. He's live. Get him in here.
If you were to look in your biology textbooks, you would see that horse evolution is often used as evidence that evolution really occurred. You would see a picture of a very small animal, almost looks like a fox or something like that, evolving into modern horse. But this scenario is fabricated.
Oh!
It's not true. It was made up. In fact, more than 50 years ago, Dr. George Gaylord Simpson said
Gaylord.
the uniform
Hey, he's already wrong. Sorry. The name proves him wrong.
Continuous transformation of Hyracotherium into Equus, so dear to the hearts of generations of textbook writers, never happened in nature. You see, this information that's presented...
Wait. That's kind of true. Like, we bred horses to be the way they are. I think he's taking that out of context. Yeah, it didn't happen in nature. We bred them that way. We bred horses to be the way they are. But they came from wild populations of animals. They had to. Where else would they have come from? Right? Like, horses... Oh, God. The brain dead part of this is, like, these people literally just believe that, like, apples were, like, just given to us with the amount of fruit that they have on them. Right? Like, that's not true. Apples used to be small as fuck. They were full of seeds, and they weren't good. Okay? They did not taste good. They tasted good enough for some animals, but they didn't taste very good. Bananas were chock full of seeds. And there are still bananas today that are chock full of seeds. And we bred out the seeds and sacrificed some of the taste. Because that breeds a fruit that we can actually eat and enjoy, right? Tomatoes, yeah, another great example. Gigantic, ripe, plump, juicy tomatoes were minuscule compared to today. Like, they were tiny, tiny, tiny guys. And almost inedible. And you look at watermelons is another great example. Probably one of the best, actually. Let's look at some old watermelons. Old watermelon versus new. Oh, there's paintings. I forgot there's paintings. Look at this painting of an old watermelon. Look at this. This is what watermelon used to look like. Interesting, no? Imagine that. Tiny, tiny pits of fruit that you could scrape the juice out, like scrape the fruit out of, that were full of seeds. Look at them now. We bred out the inedible white parts, the bitter innards, right? We bred that out. Why did watermelon used to look like this, huh? Corn was a grass and now it grows nearly 20 feet tall with ears you can use as a bludgeon. Yeah. Old versus new corn. That's another great one. Look at this turd. Well, they're both kind of turds, but look at this. This is from 9,000 years ago. This is what corn looked like. This was corn. This was your fucking corn. Sad, sad, sad corn. Look at it now. Here, look at this. Look at this. Where's your God now? And people wonder why we've made science our God. Look at what our God gave us. Look at what your God gave you. Fuck off. Corn was a great... Yeah. We already read that. What's this? Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, fuck your God.
Never happened in nature. You see, this information that's presented to us as proof that evolution actually occurred is not proof at all. If we look at it with an open mind and we study it carefully and we critically consider it, we'll realize that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth
critical
and all
thinking,
organisms,
guys.
and evolution just simply didn't play any part in God's creation.
It's very simple stuff here, guys. Come on now. If we just look at the facts, clearly, 50,000 years ago or whatever, God just made everything the way it is today. And that's why we don't have any paintings of watermelons that look any different, or dog breeds that look any different than they used to, or humans that are taller than they used to be. Oh, I guess we do have all those things. But yeah, no, this was an easy takedown. I just felt like, I felt like it'd be a fun one. Oh, of course, look, one comment. If you would like to ask a question about the material presented in this video, please submit your questions to us from the contact form at this link. Oh no. Is it still up? It is! Ooh, I wonder if I could get them on for a debate. I know I'm like always gnawing at the bit for a debate, but like, goddamn, dude, evangelism during times of difficulty. Oh God, I think we found a new channel. Guys. Oh, baby. Oh, it's so good. Oh, how many subscribers? 301,000? No shot. It's not gonna happen. But we can try. A man can dream. Anyway, if you are watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to click the like button if you have not already. Subscribe if you want to see more. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. And leave your comments for me. Tell me why evolution is wrong. Why it's debunked. Why I'm wrong. Why God's real. Why everything was made 50,000 years ago exactly the way it is today. And I'm just a heathen. A godless heathen that will never understand the light of creation of God. Please tell me all of that in the comments. And check my description to see my links to my Twitch channel, my Twitter, and my Discord. Come join us in the Twitch chat. Beautiful people here. And and be sure to join us next time on the next YouTube video. And I will see you in that next video.